Hey, FCC fans, you could show your pride in a whole new way with the new FCC Visa debit card from First Financial Bank. First Financial is the exclusive banking partner of FCC, and they are just as committed to this club as you and I are. Not only does the card look awesome, but it also gets you discounts on FCC tickets and merch. Find out how to get yours and to see the account terms and conditions at bankatfirst.com/FC Cincinnati. First Financial Bank, member FDIC. Hey, what's happening, CSTers? Welcome to another exciting edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk here on this fresh, beautiful Monday evening. Not too hot summer day in Ohio. Hey, guess what we get to do this week? We get to talk about an FC Cincinnati win. Oh, man. It's been since Mother's Day weekend, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk about the orange and blue picking up 3 big points over the Houston Dynamo over the weekend. And you know what else we get to talk about? We get to talk about the Women's World Cup. The United States women bringing it home, back-to-back World Cup titles, and Rose Lavelle, Cincy zone. Oh, man, what a weekend it was for her. We're going to talk about that match. And then we're going to wrap things up with the disappointment that was the U.S. men's national team on Sunday night against Mexico in the Gold Cup final. It wouldn't be 1 week of CST without a little Debbie Downer, right, folks? So, no, we're glad you're with us here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, or if you're listening to us in the podcast version, thank you so much for subscribing and downloading. We really do appreciate you listening to the show. This week, I am pleased to be joined by a couple of, we're trying something new. It's been a while since we've had 3 co-hosts on the show. So we've got the old foursome back together, not the OGs, but one of the OGs, the Wolfman, Bill Wolf. Bill Wolf joins us here on CST. Bill, how are you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. It has been a while since I could really say I was doing great.
Yes.
But now I'm doing great. Yeah. What a fun weekend.
It was a lot of fun. It looked a lot of fun on television, that's for sure. I saw a couple of shots of you this weekend, Bill, having a lot of fun. So I'm glad to have you back on the show, and also looking forward to getting your thoughts on everything that happened this weekend in the soccer world, especially in Cincinnati. We also welcome back to the show Trisha Hauser. Trisha, how are you?
I am still riding the high of that U.S. women's win yesterday, so I'm doing pretty great.
Well, we're glad to have you on the show. Really excited to have you on. You did a great job covering the Women's World Cup the last few weeks over at the website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. If you haven't had a chance to read Trisha's stuff, make sure you go over to the website and read it. You did a fantastic job, Trisha. And
Thank you very much.
I know you've got some good thoughts on what happened over the weekend as well.
I do. I hope. I think I do.
Of course, as always. And last but not least, although he's been on the Monday show, on a show that we didn't stream live, this gentleman is making his debut on the big show here. We welcome in Chris Asbrock to the show. Chris, welcome to CST. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm fantastic, Soups. Thank you so much. I'm like everyone else. I'm riding that high from a great weekend of soccer. So, can't ask for much more.
Yes, absolutely. If you're not familiar with Chris, you should be, because he is the co-host, the color analyst of the Cincinnati Dutch Lions broadcast this year. He and Boston did a great job with that, which I'm sure we might even be able to squeeze a little Dutch Lions conversation in here at some point tonight. But no, we've got a busy show. We're monitoring the comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, so make sure you get in touch. We don't have an episode captain this week, but if you want to wear the armband for an episode of CST, head on over to our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, let's dive right into it. The orange and blue get off to a great start Saturday night against the Houston Dynamo. More importantly, they welcomed a lot of guys back. I shouldn't say a lot. Well, it feels like a lot. Some guys back who had been missing for quite a while due to international call-up duty. But they get the win. I'll start with you, Bill. Just your overall thoughts on the match and how good it felt to finally get 3 points.
Well, first off, it was exciting just to start the entire match knowing we had a full bench.
Right.
It's been weeks since we've been able to literally field a full team. So that was exciting in and of itself. Great to have Waston back. Great to have Cruz back. Powell was on the bench. No surprise there. He played 5 games in the Gold Cup in 2.5 weeks or something like that, and played every minute of every game. So he was there, but obviously needed some rest. Great to see Bertoni back from his suspension. And, all in all, I mean, it was a different team. Admittedly, to be fair, the Houston Dynamo are not the strongest team in the league. They've been struggling. They played a midweek game. They did trounce the Red Bulls midweek, which was kind of a little bit of a nervous sign for me. But beyond that, it was a great way for us to get some of our boys back and to see a change in how things looked.
Yeah, it just seemed from the get-go, Trisha, that the first 10 or 15 minutes, I think we all kind of opened our eyes and said, wow, this felt different.
No, I agree. I think I went into the match with very high hopes because Kendall was back, Allen was back, and I think even though they're only 2 players, they make a huge difference when they're actually out there. They bring a lot of cohesion to everyone, and I just think Kendall is a great leader, and I think that shows when he's back. And I don't go into any match with high hopes anymore. I'm a pessimist, okay? I'm not going to lie. It's been depressing. But I was like, all right, well, hopefully we just don't lose horribly. And then we scored, and I was like, what is this feeling?
Yeah.
Is this joy? And I feel like the last month I've been watching every single US women's match and every single match in the Women's World Cup, and I got really used to saying good soccer. So then I was like, oh, get to watch FCC now. Cool. And then they surprised me and they weren't awful. And then Spencer got kicked in the face and I wanted to hurt somebody.
There it is.
We love our Spinny.
Right.
We love him. And that hurt me, but she's okay. So
yes, jumping the gun a little bit there, and rightly so. I know you wanted to get that Spencer Ritchie mentioned in. But I think
he's my hero.
I know we adore Spencer Ritchie here at CST. There's no question about that. But I think one thing we all have been just clamoring for, Chris, the last few weeks is we've been watching Alan Cruz for Costa Rica tear it up in the center of the park, and sure enough, the boys in orange and blue, the coaching staff finally put him in the middle of the field. And I'm not saying it was a game changer, but it definitely made an impact. The team played much better around him, but I think we all kind of took notice of finally.
Well, it's one of those things, every game that we watched, in the Gold Cup for Costa Rica, you saw what Cruz could do in the middle. So, and it was maddening to us, as we're watching the games, as a group and, communicating with each other, every single one of us were, flustered that why can't we put Cruz in the middle? Like it had to happen. And, one thing I had mentioned was, the coaching staff, they had better be watching these Costa Rican matches because look at what he can do. And then sure enough, we saw the lineup. We're like, okay. And then obviously, getting back Waston and Cruz was huge and, provides depth and everything like that. But you could see what they can do. And it was refreshing. It really was. And you could tell that, the coaching staff really saw what Cruz can do. And, they kind of let him have free reign of, basically kind of go do what you do with Costa Rica. That's kind of how at least it felt to me, watching the match, the stands. It was nice. It was refreshing to see what we brought him on, for.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He was very impressive there in the middle. I don't want to compare the games because I think it is a little bit of a different team, but you go back to the Montreal game, the last time they won, Bill. That was really one of the last few times, too, that they've had the full roster, the full gamut of players they could choose from. But just looking at the ability to connect passes there in that first 15 minutes, it felt a lot like that Montreal match, which was obviously there was a lot going into that match. The coaching change had just been made. But that felt very similar to that Montreal match on Saturday night, the early connecting of the passes, and then Manu Ledesma finding a streaking Mane for the goal there in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just think about that game against Montreal, I mean, there was obviously a lot of emotion in the team. There was a lot of energy in the team. There was a lot of excitement. They obviously were feeling very positive about the change that had occurred right before that game. And I think that drove them into that success. I think once they lost the next game, it kind of created this sort of snowball effect, and they lost the confidence. I mean, you could just see that this team should be doing better than they were doing, that the players on the pitch, maybe we didn't have a, number one team in the MLS, but we certainly had a team that should be able to connect passes and do some of the things that we're seeing them do again now. So, I think they needed this. They needed this confidence boost. And for me, I think it starts in that midfield. We needed to get our midfield right. And I think the 4-3-3 is working for us. And I think for me right now, people can disagree with me, but I think Bertone, Amaya, and Cruz are my three starters. Ulloa came in. I felt like it dropped off a little bit there. And then I can't think of another player that I would put in there that I think would do a better job than those three, at least for now. So,
and Bertone is one of those guys too, of late, that's been getting, I don't know if flack's the right word, but I think we all, he was on a few episodes ago when we talked about our kind of mid-season awards. He was one of those guys, Bill, that, he's kind of been, I don't want to say, maybe disappointment's unfair, but I think we expected more from somebody coming over from a top European league, just fresh off of Champions League soccer.
Yeah, and I think, any player, if they're not in the right position, or if they're not being asked to do the things that they're good at, if they're not around the right players, aren't going to succeed. I think, and I'm not saying this specifically, but I think the combination of Bertone and Ulloa as a pair in the midfield didn't work. I mean, when we were trying to do the two there, and I guess maybe a 4-2-3-1, the double pivot, it just wasn't cutting it. This worked much better, where Bertone sat behind Cruz and Amaya and directed traffic, and he had more passes than anybody else in the team. He had like a 90% passing completion rate. This worked, and of course, he had players behind him that were good on defense. I mean, Waston back made a huge difference, I think. Yep. And just having some of that direction behind him. So I think it works well. I think Bertone, I would agree. I mean, I think we expected more. It seemed like the possibilities were there, but it just wasn't delivering like we see from a lot of the other players. And this combination worked. So, I'm certainly excited to see how we go forward with it. I would assume that there'll be very little changes, maybe going into the next game, other than, of course, we have a new signing, so I don't know where he's going to fit in, and we're still wondering about Lamar is probably our biggest signing that might be coming back from injury. So,
and one of the gentlemen, as we mentioned too, who's really stepped up the last few weeks. I wouldn't say the unsung hero, but a guy we didn't expect to get a lot of playing time, Trisha, and that is Manu Ledesma. 2 assists on the night. First one to Mane, beautiful pass there, and then obviously setting up the third goal there in the second half. But, obviously we know what he could do. We saw what he did last year for the USL side. A lot of us were wondering if he would be able to make that jump, but the last 2 weeks he's starting to see a little bit more improvement. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go be a starter for the rest of the year for the squad, but you could see that he has gotten a little bit more comfortable with his role within this group.
I agree. I know coming into the season, a lot of people expected to see him more because he was our MVP, and we love our Manu around here, but he didn't get that playing time. And I think with all of the players out, he had to step in and really create more of a name for himself, I guess you could say, because he had a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, knowing that he's going into these matches and he has to prove himself. And even if he doesn't prove himself, he's one of the only guys we have. So even if he sucks, he just has to be out there. But I think he got more comfortable with a lot of the people on the pitch, and he really was able to prove himself that he can get out there and play to a higher caliber than people might have expected. And I think he's just gotten better the more matches he's played with these guys. And I think his last match was probably one of his best yet of the season.
Yeah, he certainly did. I agree with you there. He earned Team of the Week honors in Major League Soccer, so congrats to Manu for that. Sunday night, I got a little bit bored before the U.S.-Mexico match, and I went back and I watched the second goal, and I was amazed at the build-up. A 21 pass build-up to lead to the second goal for Rashawn Daly Chris, getting his first Major League Soccer goal. really taking his chance there in the first half. A lot of folks are wondering where is this guy going to fit in? I mean, obviously he was drafted in the super draft. Again, one of those guys we weren't expecting to see at all. He was out on loan to a couple different USL sides, but due to a lack of player availability to the Gold Cup as well as injuries, this guy's been thrust into the lineup, and he's taking his chance and making. I'm not saying he's going to be the starter the rest of the year, but I thought his hold-up play was pretty good. He's probably got to learn some positional play, but when his chance was there, he buried it, and he's got one more goal now than the franchise's designated player striker. What does that tell you?
Well, I mean, it says, I mean, at least it says a lot for me that, the kid stepped up. I mean, like you said, he was thrust into that role unexpectedly. None of us thought it was going to happen. But, he definitely looked nervous in his debut against the Galaxy, which is to be expected. But, he took advantage of some chances, I thought, and, played well. And you can tell he's kind of built – he's bettered himself, each game. I mean, obviously that, last week against Minnesota was, I'm not going to.
Throw that one out the window.
What match?
Yeah,
I don't even remember that.
Exactly. I forget that one. But
Okay.
So that's one. It's just, again, that's just something I'm not even going to worry about that one. But he had a couple chances in that match as well. And then, in this one, it was that 21 pass build up. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun. The kid took advantage of it. And you could kind of see, his celebration, you could see a lot of relief was taken off of his shoulders on that. And like you said, Subs, he's got, one more goal than Adi does. And, he's a big body kid who, he continues to play like this and just kind of have fun and enjoy it and kind of soak it all in. Who knows what we could see from him. I mean, like you said, with Maddox coming back, obviously it's going to be interesting to see how Yo plays everything moving forward. But, so far I've been impressed with him. I mean, it's just, obviously a small sample size, but, good on him for taking advantage of that. And again, like I said, that goal, once it went in the net, back of the net, you could see the relief on him. It was, everything felt like it was off his shoulders as he was celebrating there.
Of those 21 passes in the build-up, Bill, every player on the field touched it except for Spencer Ritchie.
Slacker.
Yeah. No, it was a great build-up play. What have you seen out of Daly? Again, very small sample size, but what have you seen out of Daly that's different than Fernando Adi, and why does it feel like with him it's more positive, whereas when Adi's on the field it feels more, I don't know if negative is the right word, but it feels like it's not working.
Whew. See, it's interesting. I would say that Daly checks back, gets involved in some of these connecting passes to bring the ball out of the midfield, but Adi has done that as well. I think what maybe is the difference is it's the consistency or the amount of times that he does it, where Adi will do that. He doesn't always do it. It seems like Adi is wow, what's the right way to phrase it? You feel like when you're watching him that maybe he's not really connected with his teammates. And I don't mean that just from a ball to ball kind of thing, but like mentally they're not necessarily like excited to be playing with each other. And I could be completely off base on that, but just somehow he just sort of seems aloof up at the top, right? Where Daly will come back and get the ball, and Adi checks back, but sometimes when he checks back, he's just kind of wandering around the midfield. He's not really challenging in the same way that Daly does. And we've seen Adi do all the same things that Daly does. I just feel like he does it less often, or he doesn't do it as consistently, or maybe his energy level is lower over a 60-minute period, so that you don't see as much of that. But for me, and this is kind of goes into your question at a deeper level. When I think about this game, and I don't know that we've really touched on this, right? It was a victory. It was the score was in our favor. I think if you look at the first half of the game, it was a great game. I mean, we really looked great. And this is what we've been talking about because we're all excited. What we haven't yet talked about is the second half.
Oh, we're getting there.
Yeah, because the second half was not great. And what changed? I mean, it was the same players on the field mostly, right? I mean, Houston made a sub and we made a sub at the half, basically. Amaya went out. Sounds like he picked up a little bit of a knock. Hopefully he's okay. And then, 60 minutes into the game, we subbed off Dally and we brought in Audie. So this kind of gets into your question. For me, I felt like the substitutions we made did not help us. I felt like the substitutions brought our team down. I felt that we took a definite drop in energy level when Amaya was off the field. And I know it's an injury thing, so it's not necessarily a choice. But Ulloa in a 10 spot seemed really weird to me. I know Bertoni was doing a great job, but it seemed like you would shuffle your midfield and try to put your players into the positions that they're maybe more natural in, and push Bertoni up and pull Ulloa back. Ulloa scored a goal, so it's hard to complain on that. But on the flip side, overall, I just felt like the connectivity, that motion, that passing that we saw in the first half didn't happen in the second half. We didn't carry the ball through the midfield. We didn't control possession in the same way. And I really felt like we took a real drop off in the attack once Audie was on. And, do the math on that dollar wise, that's mind boggling to me. $2 million versus I have no idea what poor Dally makes. Yeah. League minimum for Dally. I mean, and honestly, I would start Dally.
Yeah, I'm with you there too, Bill. I mean, to be fair, Ulloa, the goal it shouldn't have happened, right? I mean, that was an absolute howler from Joe Willis from Houston. Should have been 2-0. Thankfully, it was 3-0 and ends up being the game-winning goal. But really, 3-0 up until the 79th minute. Houston did make some changes, but our guy, Justin Hoyt, goes to ground there late in the match, but he probably doesn't need to. He's got cover behind him, but he goes down, brings down Kyoto in the box, leading to the penalty kick, Trisha. And at that point, you're thinking 3-1, okay, we've still got this managed. But then they come back 2 minutes later and score the second goal. And at that point, you're probably thinking to yourself, there's no way. For as well as this team has played, how badly they have needed this, there's no way. Can they really throw this match away? And they absolutely tried, but they hang on.
I don't like to ask if it can get worse during an FCC match because it can, and it usually does. But I was watching the match from home. I didn't go this weekend because my family was in town, and so we have on here that Ellis scored, but it truly looked like Nick Hagland headed it in.
It was an own goal. You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
So I'm not so mad about Justin Hoyt messing up in there. Honestly, that can happen to anyone. It shouldn't. You should know what you're doing, but it can happen. But Hagland, get out.
Well, you know how Trisha feels about that.
I mean, and I love Nick Hagland as a person. I think his daughter's the cutest thing in the world. But how many times can we consistently see him make mistakes that hurt us in the end?
Yeah. I mean,
how many times?
Yeah. There's a reason why
you have one job to not let that happen. And then you did it for them. So yay, we scored 4 goals. It's the first time we've probably done that all season, but let's not score them for the other team.
So, yeah, I mean, he definitely not his best best clearance. He's had a few of those this year, Chris. But so there's clearly a reason why the upper management have gone out and signed a center back, which we will talk about here in a little bit. But 3-2, what's going through your mind?
Well, when it was 3-0, I was feeling fantastic. But then you could see that it felt like they decided to take their foot off the gas pedal in the second half, and they kind of wanted to coast it out. Obviously, when you try and do that, when you play to not lose, you can lose, and that's like you said. They were trying really hard to lose it, and honestly, I turned around and I missed the second goal, and I was like, I turned back around and saw them celebrate, and I was like, what the heck just happened? And then
it was 90 seconds.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it, and then you could just kind of feel the energy in the stadium was really. The air was kind of sucked out a little bit, and you could feel it was a nervous energy.
It was one of the most Cincinnati things that could happen.
I was just going to say that. It felt like, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, here we go. It's a typical Cincinnati loss, regardless of what team it is, what it is. That's what it felt like. But it was a gutsy performance to get out of there with 3 points. So I got to give them a lot of credit for it. But
Yeah.
it was kind of dire at some points there.
Yeah, we got to give them some credit, actually. Sorry to interrupt, Suze, but we got to give them some credit. I mean, we saw this with some of the other games, right? When they'd go down a couple goals, the mentality of the team, they would just crumble. I mean, holy cow, Minnesota, right? I mean, 2 goals down quickly, and then the team just falls apart. And admittedly, we were still up, so it is a little different, and we had scored or whatever, but the team didn't fall apart. So, I don't know if that's, having a couple key players back, some maybe more vetted players, leaders like Waston who can say, guys, come on, let's keep it together here. We got to focus, because they took a beating for 10 minutes after that. But they withstood it as opposed to letting that get into their head, which they very easily could have.
I mean, the last 12 minutes were,
brutal.
It was all Houston all the time. I mean, there were cross after cross after cross coming into the box, dangerous crosses, a lot of chances. I don't know, honestly, with the amount of chances they had in the final 12 minutes, I don't know how they didn't come out.
I don't either.
Thankfully, Spencer Ritchie takes one for the team, gets studded in the face, made a big save. But yeah, I mean, you're right. We do have to give them credit for hanging on. It wasn't pretty there at the end. But sometimes you got to win games like that.
Yep.
And these are the kind of games that as a group, they've got to learn how to win like that. And they haven't been in this position in the last 8 or 9 weeks. So you take it, you move on. And, look, 3 points at this point is great. You build on that. Hopefully you build some momentum heading into the next few weeks because you got some matches here at home. You've got a tough one coming up here against the Fire this weekend. You've got DC United coming to town. The Revs are playing a lot better than when we faced them earlier in the year. So hopefully this is one of those momentum builders and that, this is something they can build on. I agree with you 100%. I thought the substitutions were a little head scratching. Now, I think the Armaya, I'm still, we're going to get these names wrong all the time. Ulloa, although we heard about that one. I think losing him was a big blow, and they don't have that guy that can fill that role, Bill. And it was pretty clear in that second half.
Yeah, for sure. We're still struggling on some depth, I think, a little bit. I mean, honestly, not that I have anything against Amaya, because I think he has been a phenomenal pickup for this team. But you would not expect, 18-year-old to be in this role and to have that kind of creative position within this lineup. So, you would expect that we would have brought in a big name 10 from South America or something and spent Muku bucks on him, and Amaya would be sitting on the bench, and that's not been the case. So that's great for Amaya, and I'm actually pretty positive about seeing some of ththese young kids getting their chances, like Daly or McCabe, even getting them out there and getting some time with them. But I think depth wise we struggle. I mean we don't really have more than the 11 yet. You see a drop off, pretty significant drop off.
Yeah, there's a reason why General Manager Gerard Niekamp last week on the conference call said we are looking for a striker. We're looking for some depth because you're right. They certainly need it. In the end, 3 points is all that matters. They get it done thanks to the howler from Houston goalkeeper Joe Willis. And, it feels good to be able to witness a win for the first time since Mother's Day weekend back in May. So, very exciting times, at least for this weekend. We'll see what happens this weekend against the Chicago Fire. Now, meanwhile, there was some news, although it's not entirely official just yet until the transfer window opens this week, coming up in a couple of days, July 9th. But FC Cincinnati has announced the signing of Dutch center back Mikhail van der Werf. I probably butchered that. We're going to get used to butchering names quite a bit here on CST over the next however many years we're in Major League Soccer. So get used to that. but he is a Dutch center back. Chris, you had a chance to write about him on the website. He's got some experience. He was there for the match against the Galaxy a few weeks ago, and he is now going to be joining FC Cincinnati here. And my guess is slotting in right next to Kendall Waston as a starting center back.
That's what I would have to think. It's a big sign. Obviously, he's got familiarity with Niekamp, so you're going to kind of go back to that. But he came over here. He was out of contract with Vitesse Arnhem. I think it's a good move. I mean, it provides more depth. And I mean, like you said, I think you're going to see him, slotted next to Kendall Waston. I think that's just it's a natural. I just think it's going to be a natural pairing there. But he's 30 years old. He's been successful in every stop he's made in Holland. So, anytime you can bring somebody over, and obviously Niekamp, you kind of figured his first move was going to be somebody he was, familiar with, or at least he knew, a little bit more about, and that's exactly what happened here. But he was here for the Galaxy match, like you stated, and it was a great first match to come to and see the atmosphere, because it was rocking that night, and he got a nice taste of it, and we'll see how he comes in. Obviously, I think with the transfer window opening tomorrow, obviously we'll see that everything will be official. We'll see when he comes in.
Obviously, this is a big move, Bill. Probably the first of, I would suggest, a few moves that the club's going to be making here in the next few weeks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they can't sit still. I know that, we're at a little bit of a disadvantage of the fact that our GM is not in the States, but, he's got to figure it out, and Luke Sassano's got to be his aid to get it done, but we have to make some changes, obviously. I think everybody's pretty honest at this point, saying that the playoffs are out of the question, but we certainly don't want to end the season where we are now. We'd like to make some sort of a run to kind of come out to the bottom of the table and kind of feel good about the direction we're going and see improvement. Defense has not been good, so that it's an obvious first step to make. Whether this is the right guy or not, we'll soon see. But he certainly has some credentials, and our GM Niekamp has some experience with him, which is a good thing. So I hope that shores us up and gets us out of that kind of bleeding goals feeling in some of these games. I think we had 3 games in the last few weeks that were like 5 or more goals against. So that needs to change, obviously. And then the other side, obviously we don't need any midfielders, so the other side is on the attack. We're struggling with wings. We lost Lamar, and suddenly, we don't know who's going to play. I mean, obviously Ledesma has come in and done a great job. But Cruz was playing out wide for a while, and we're moving him back to the middle, thankfully. And that leaves us with kind of Ledesma, Bone, I guess, and Lamar, right? So,
but it's funny, Bill, because a minute ago you were talking about once Amaya left the lineup, there's no depth. So we have all these midfielders, but we lose a lot when we don't have, our top guys in there. So maybe we aren't as deep as we thought at midfield.
Yeah, or we have a lot of midfielders, but we don't have necessarily all the
right midfielders.
The right midfielders, exactly. And we have too many, 6s and 8s and not enough 10s or whatever. I mean, we're not really quite playing that exact formation where they're true 6s, 8s, and 10s. But you can see Amaya truly does play more of a 10 role, even though we set him up as a diamond, or not a diamond, a triangle in the middle. He moves forward. He's up there with Daly half the time, looking for opportunities and
pressing as well.
And pressing, exactly. So we need that player. And I don't know that there's really any of the other players that are like that. I mean, Bone kind of played that role in the past. At some level, I'm surprised that he didn't go in instead of Ulloa, because I think that's more of a 1-for-1 swap than what we did. Again, I think if Ulloa had dropped back and Bertoni had gone forward, it wouldn't be quite the same, but Bertoni, I think, can be a little more attack focused. Ulloa is not an attacking mid well, I shouldn't say not attacking mid. He's not a 10. He's not a creative pressing mid. So
that could be due to, and that's probably more of at halftime up 2-0, knowing that the team has conceded like crazy lately, trying to shut up shop, maybe throwing 2 defensive midfielders in there, making it tough for Houston to break down. But yeah, you're right. That once that happened, we sat back, and then next thing you know, Houston's just bombarding the net. But as far as signings go, Trisha, is there one spot, we kind of talked about it last week on the podcast, ways we want to fix FC Cincinnati? Is there one position or one spot in particular that you're thinking, man, we've really got to improve here this transfer window?
I think kind of like what Bill was saying, we need someone who can score goals. We need a striker. We need someone who's going to be up there and reliable. We have a lot of guys who have scored 1 goal apiece. A couple
also
people have scored
goal.
more. Yes, own goal MVP. But I think we really need someone up top that we can trust to get the ball in the net, which is the point of the soccer, and which is how we will win. So I think they really need to focus on signing someone who is going to be reliable, consistent, and do their job.
How about you, Chris? Any spot that you're looking for?
No, I agree with everyone else. I think it's really goal scoring. You can see, the other team scores 3 and you score 2. It really doesn't mean much. So you just got to, in this case, find somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, obviously Dally, he's, like I said, small sample size, so who knows what could be of that. But, I mean, overall, I think you definitely need help and depth in the scoring. Other than that, I mean, I think that's our biggest, need right now.
When we talk about roster moves, the one name that continues to come up amongst the fan base is Fernando Adi. And let's be fair, in his year here, it has not gone well, right? It just hasn't gone off for whatever reason. If you're the club, Chris, one word, yes or no, do you try and move him this transfer window?
Yes. Yep.
I think Trisha?
Yes.
Billiam?
Yes.
All right, the clean sweep. I mean, it's hard to argue with, right? For the amount of money he's getting paid, the results just aren't there. The question is, if I was
getting paid $2 million, I can guarantee you I would be doing some stuff. Okay. That is all.
Strikers score goals. I mean, I know that they do more than that, but ultimately strikers score goals.
Yeah.
He hasn't scored goals.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's hard to argue.
Yep.
So
yeah, I think for me, I would probably focus a little more on the wings and the strikers. I know that we need. I mean, it sounds weird because we're talking about Adi going away, but we have 3 sort of strikers in my opinion, right? I mean, you've got Maddox, you've got Dally, and you've got Adi. You could certainly run those 3 out. For me, where we have 0 depth, even less depth than the Amaya problem at some level, is in the wings.
Yeah.
I mean, Lamah's hurt. We've got Mane out there. We've got Ledesma on the other side. If one of those gets hurt, who goes in?
Oh, that'd be Alan Cruz.
Exactly.
Which is what we don't want.
Which is what we don't want. Exactly. We don't want to push Alan Cruz out wide again and put somebody in the midfield. What we need is an actual winger that would go into those positions. Obviously, having Lamah back would help give us another one, but it seems to me like we need probably another right wing or something to kind of fill that space and have options. So.
And maybe that's where a formation switch to maybe a 3-4-3 could, and I know that's where they were trying to go, but maybe that's where somebody like Alvis Powell is more of a right mid / right back in a 3-4-3 formation. But then what do you do with Hoyt? Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm not Gerard Niekamp.
Yeah, the 3-4-3 was early Koch days, so I don't know if they really have an interest in going there anymore.
Yeah.
It is kind of odd though that was the formation they were working on when they were kind of bringing players in, and they were talking about wing backs and all these things, and then right before the season starts, complete change, and then you're looking at the roster and going, when we thought we had all these midfielders,
right.
And we need all these midfielders. Now we don't need as many. Right. So, and then our wing backs are, not quite what we need either. So, but anyway, I think that I think the 4-3-3 sounds like it's probably where we want to be. It sounds like that's kind of the Dutch style, and it's kind of being sort of pushed down to Yo a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we'll see much change there, but anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, it would be great if they could replace the entire front line, right? A left wing, a right wing, as well as a number 9 that can, actually put the ball in the net. I mean, it's
in an ideal world, that's what you want, right? I mean, you want your front 3 in this case to be pushing hard and getting tired, and then you want to replace them midway through the second half. You don't want to have an injury in the back line. You don't want to have a goalkeeper get hurt, and you don't want to have to pull out your midfielders either if they're getting the job done. I mean, it's typically the attacking pieces that you try to refresh so that you get that extra boost of speed near the end of the game to liven it up. We just haven't had that luxury.
Yeah. Well, what we do know is coming up here, I guess tomorrow, if you're listening to the show after the fact here on Tuesday, July 9th, the transfer window opens, and so the signing of Mikhail van der Werf, and again, if I'm butchering that, I apologize. I'm sure we'll hear about it on social media. That will become official on Tuesday, and hopefully that is the first of a couple of different roster moves that the Orange and Blue will be making here in the next few weeks. All right, it's that time in the show where we give a big shout-out and thanks to our tremendous supporters. So a big shout-out and thanks to King's Hammer and Tim Bronsel, Matt Adamczyk, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Teresa Everidge, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Coling, and Tara Mullins. Thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We really do appreciate your generosity. To learn more on how you can support the show, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, let's talk a little Women's World Cup, shall we? I mean, what a week, what a month for the women, the United States women, bringing home the World Cup title, back-to-back World Cup champions, and they do it in style with a 2-0 win over the Netherlands. If you look back at their tournament run into that match, they knocked off the second-place team in the Netherlands. They knocked off the third-place team in Sweden. They knocked off the fourth-place team in England, and they beat France, who were tournament favorites. What a run for the women. They win again, back-to-back, Trisha. You did a great job, as I mentioned earlier in the show, covering it. How excited were you on Sunday morning after that final whistle?
I was crying. I was sitting on my dad's couch, eating ribs, crying. I probably had sauce smeared on my face. Thankfully, nothing got in my eye, but I was elated. Going into the last match, I was like, oh, it's the Netherlands. We're going to be fine. I was happy it wasn't Sweden. I thought Sweden would be a much tougher team to beat. So at first I was like, I'm not worried at all. And then we got to the half and it was still 0-0. And I was like, oh, this is a little bit more challenging than I thought. Yeah. Because they were the first team, throughout every single match we had scored in less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was actually 12 minutes.
Yeah, up until the Netherlands, the team that held us to our first goal, the longest was Thailand, which is saying a lot because, as everyone knows, we scored 13 goals there. So it was a little nerve-wracking. And then, we made our halftime adjustments, and Netherlands, they were just really, really good. It was a really good match. And then when Pino got that PK, it was just like, we can do this, yay. But I personally don't like matches where you win only on PKs. So I was really stoked when Rose got that score, and you could just see it on her face that she was probably one of the happiest people in the world at that moment. And I think everyone in the US and everyone in Cincinnati was just excited for her, because to have that moment on the world's biggest stage, just doing what I like to call an insurance goal, where it's like, now you have 2, so you have to at least get 2 to tie up, as everyone knows, was just a really great moment. And to know that this team, who has worked so hard and put in so much work, so much time and effort, they were able to bring home a second championship in a row, was just an amazing feeling. And I am so proud of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were fantastic. Skyline Chili Messi, as she's now going to be called.
If she ever has to buy her own Skyline for the rest of her life, that will be a disgrace. Anyone, if you see Rose Lavelle out, buy her Skyline. She deserves it. Yeah.
As a former Skyline employee, I must say, I would be remiss if the marketing department isn't on top of creating some sort of red cheese to put on top of a 3-way or cheese coney for the Rose. Yeah, I mean, she was fantastic. She wins the bronze ball, which is, I think, the third best player in the tournament. She had a fantastic tournament. And I'll be the first to admit, Chris, I had said amongst our CS tiers on Sunday morning, man, Rose is not having her best game. And then minutes later, she gets the ball after a great tackle from Crystal Dunn, who, by the way, had a tremendous tournament herself at left back. Not even a normal left back, but
she was
didn't look out
probably
of
like
place.
my match MVP. I thought she was amazing.
Yeah, she played fantastic. But then Rose gets the ball, drives it to the defense of the Netherlands, and gets the ball on her left. I can't believe they let her get the ball onto her left foot first off, and then just to bury that shot. I mean, it was a great moment, not just for the Women's World Cup. It was great for Cincinnati. It was great for Rose. I mean, it was pretty awesome. I mean, my daughter was pretty excited as well.
Oh, it was incredible. It really was. It was. I was in my living room watching the game with my wife and kids, and we're sitting there, and it was funny because I responded, when she said she wasn't having her best game. I agree right after that, and then sure enough, she scored. So made us look good there. But just to see her, just the jubilation, and it was just an incredible moment. And then seeing like Landon Donovan tweet out, Rose Lavelle is my favorite, U.S. player, and then just seeing all the messages. It was such a cool thing to see, especially she's Cincinnati's own. She loves it here. She's a big Cincinnati fan. It's just an incredible moment. It really truly was. And obviously, you start off the tournament, with a 13-0 win over Thailand, and then obviously things progress like they should and get a little tougher as each game moves on. But nothing seemed to phase this team, and that's what was so great about it. They just they're obviously battle tested. They've got a mix of youth and veteran leadership. So Jill Ellis has done just a simply incredible job with this team, and and just to see Rose Lavelle step up like she did, just like you said, and a couple other people in the CST channel, if Rose Lavelle buys anything ever again in Cincinnati, we've got a problem.
Yeah,
she definitely deserves it. It's just, again, I can't say it enough. I mean, how cool it was. She scored one of the biggest goals in the World Cup for us, and I mean, just an absolute stunning goal too. I jumped up off the couch and my wife jumped up. We were hugging. My boys were all excited. We were high-fiving. Just such a cool thing. It was incredible. So it's amazing.
Chris mentioned Jill Ellis, Bill. Jill, to her defense, a lot of people questioning a lot of her moves this World Cup. It's hard to argue with the results, right? She's only the second manager in World Cup history, both men and women, to win back-to-back World Cup titles. She had to make some tough choices, right? Lindsey Horan, who is one of the best midfielders in the world, couldn't even get into this match because of players like Rose Lavelle, because of Muse. She made the tough choice of playing Rapinoe, who we know had some hamstring issues, weren't sure if she was going to be fully fit. I would say Rapinoe wasn't at her best in that game against the Netherlands. I kind of thought maybe she should have started press in this match. In the end, she buries the penalty kick. Question for you, Bill, though. Was it a penalty? The VAR get it right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
I just wanted to mention VAR for Ken. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. Ken's going to die on that hill. But I'm a supporter of VAR. I don't pretend that we've got it right yet. I just think that, the dialogue has changed internationally from why did the referee mess that up and look what he cost this team to why is it taking so long and why doesn't this tournament have VAR? So, I mean, like Gold Cup. Anyway, but anyway, not that there was a lot of, issues there, but regardless.
But Ellis had to make some tough choices.
She had to make some tough choices. Exactly. And I think you can't argue with the results. I think she certainly was fortunate to have extremely talented players and a squad with immense depth, something we're not used to here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But Yes, exactly. I agree. But for her, Rapinoe is one of those players that, you know, she steps up at the right moments. Right. And she was definitely not 100%. I would agree with you. And when she was lined up for the PK, I have to tell you, I was scared. I'm sitting there thinking, she has already taken 2 PKs this tournament, and both of them went in, right? I mean, you can't get them all in. It's just the reality of life, right?
Yeah,
And the
ask
other
England.
thing, yeah, exactly. And the other thing is on top of that, you have to say now everybody has seen her take 2 PKs, right? So how does she do something different? And sure, she does something different, and which she did. But it was a brilliant PK. It was absolutely exactly what it needed to be. The keeper fell for it, assumed she was going to go for the left again, or the keeper's right. And it was in. So, in the end, I was thrilled to death. She took it. But I have to say, I was very nervous with that decision as well, to leave her as the PK taker. And then as far as Haran, I think, man, what a tough spot to be in. She would be the absolute starter in almost any other team in the world, right? She just happened to be born in the wrong country. No, I mean, not for us, but what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
For her. And I think, she is an absolute beast. I think Ellis is just another beast. Mewis is maybe a little bit kind of not quite as tough, and she adds a little different dimension. Rose adds this sort of creativity level. We were talking about her just a minute ago, and I'll add something to that in just a minute. But I think the problem is just too much similarity. You need some differences. So I think she liked the idea that Mewis is a little different than Ertz, is a little different than, did I say Ellis earlier? I did. Yeah. Ertz is what I meant. Gotcha. Julie Ertz. So Ertz is a little different than Mewis, is a little different than Rose. And I think Haran, she's a great player, but she didn't add enough change. And Ellis saw that. She saw that she needed those differences. And sure enough, Rose is one of those players, you guys both mentioned it, that you watch the game and you think, why is she out there right now? I mean, what is she doing? And she's not a beast. She's not that player that, runs back and gets into the 6 and knocks the ball out at the last minute. And she's not that woman that takes out a player in midfield because they're making that run. She is just not that physical, high energy player. She's a different kind of player, but what she does is she adds this creativity and this vision. She gets the ball and then she just immediately knows what to do with it. She almost never touches the ball for very long. I mean, it's like ball comes to her feet and it's literally like a one touch to the next place she wants it to be. And it just seems like sometimes she's barely doing anything, but all she's doing is putting herself in the right place and seeing where the ball needs to go next and immediately making that transfer. It happens so quick. Sometimes you question why she's doing it until all of a sudden you start looking at the stats and you realize how many assists she has because she's the one putting the balls into these goal scoring opportunities. So yeah, it was phenomenal. And then this one, oh my gosh, it wasn't even an assist. I mean, she just did it all herself. She literally just went up the field and it was like, did they forget she was out there? Because they didn't seem to be too worried about it until she put it in the back of the net.
They certainly forgot that she was left-footed. I still can't believe they allowed it to get on her left foot like that. More importantly, Rose Lavelle 24. The squad was a lot of the ladies on this squad, Trisha, are over 30. Mm-hmm. We may not see the likes of Carly Lloyd anymore. I'd be hard pressed to think that we'll see Megan Rapinoe in the next World Cup. She's also one of the older vets. But obviously with the depth that this squad has, I'm not saying that 2023 is a foregone conclusion that they're going to win another World Cup title, but you got to think that with the amount of talent this group has and some of the upcoming talent that is continuing to progress in women's soccer here in the United States, that it's only going to get better.
No, I agree. I think, we do have a lot of players over the age of 30. Some of them might come back. Some of them might not. I think that's probably why Rapinoe did start, because for all we know, it might be her last World Cup. And if it is, she wasn't going to not start that match. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think some of them, they're in great shape. They will probably battle to come back because I think Carly Lloyd, is she 36 or is Christian Press 36?
Carly
One
Lloyd's
of them is
36. Yeah.
So for all we know, they'll come back. And even if not, I think Jill Ellis has more than proven herself to be a great coach. And these women have chemistry. They have cohesion. They know how to work together. So it's 4 years away, but I'm not worried. I don't think there's one thing that we can count on in the US, and it's our women's national team. They have never finished below third. There's only been 8 World Cups, and we have a title from 4 of them. I am not worried. If there's anything we should be worrying about, it should be our men's national team.
That's what you call segue in the business, folks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I will just wrap up our by the way, it's been a blast the last few weeks talking about the women's game here on CST. And Lord knows we need to do it more often. As a parent who's got a daughter who plays club soccer and sees the talent that some of these women have, it's exciting to see the recognition they're getting. I wish it wasn't every 4 years. I'm excited that things like the NWSL is getting the recognition it needs, and there's going to be some games televised here this year. Sponsors are getting involved, Bill. I know that Cincinnati, we've been saying it since day one in USL that there needs to be a women's side here, and it's only the conversation is only going to get bigger and better in regards to women's soccer here in this country.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It was phenomenal to see a full-page ad in, the New York Times from Budweiser, basically saying that they're going to start sponsoring the NWSL moving forward. I think that's important. I think that, FCC has made it very clear that a women's team is in their future. And I've spoken to Jeff Birding, and he has confirmed that to me multiple times. So it's not off the table. It's for sure something they're planning. So, we've got the training facilities, we've got the stadium. Why not? And we certainly have a very strong women's program in our youth clubs around town. And then on top of that, I'll throw a shout out to Washington Spirit. That's Rose Lavelle's team. If you guys didn't know, there's actually 4 Cincinnati players on that team. So, it's almost
the other 3, Bill.
I don't know their names.
Yep. See, and that's the problem, right? We should know.
Yeah, we should. But I know that they're there. I don't know how much they start. And I'll be honest, I haven't watched enough of the games to know. But that's something I think I should change personally. And I think hopefully we'll start to pay more attention to it, especially with the possibility of us getting a team and maybe some of these players coming home. I certainly would love to see Rose come home. And then, I think the other thing is, and this is where it's becoming very, very apparent to me, is that the Netherlands were good. Like Trish said, they were good. They were the Euro champs. This is not just a slouch team, right? And they've come out of nowhere. They were literally like a non-existent program, 5 years ago or something, or 8 years ago. So they've kind of popped up and, risen to the top very quickly, which is awesome. They're creating competition for us. We've won 4 World Cups out of 8. We've never finished less than third. I don't know that we can say that's going to remain safe. In 4 years, European women's soccer is growing. We need the US women's soccer program to grow too. We need the NWSL to take that next step forward beyond that sort of struggling MLS years that we had early on with the MLS. Now we need the NWSL to take that next step and become a stable, growing area for women's soccer so that we can remain competitive. We've got to have our players challenged because when they get on the international stage, it's getting better every year.
I would love it. And I don't know if this is even doable, especially with all the talk of Major League Soccer expansion, Chris. But I almost think Major League Soccer should get involved, right? I would love it if not only is it a requirement that you build a soccer stadium, not only is it a requirement that you have a training ground and an academy, but I almost think it now should be a requirement that there should be a women's side because it's important. It's important to grow. We see the European teams. I know Manchester United this past year, their first year with a women's team. These big top European clubs are growing and getting better. We saw. England was good too. They were right there. They were inches away from eliminating the United States. So, I think maybe a requirement's a strong word, but there's got to be a way that we make it so that all of these Major League Soccer owners invest in the women's game.
Well, I would have to agree with you. And you see, like you were stating, the teams overseas. I mean, Olympic Lyon. I mean, they've got a powerful program. Wolfsburg and in Germany, they've got
Chelsea, Arsenal.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Arsenal and Chelsea were the other two I was gonna mention. They've all got programs now. NWSL, ESPN just announced that they're gonna be broadcasting 14 matches, for their season coming up. So that right there, the growth of soccer in this country is completely different now than what it was 4 years ago. So, and you can tell, I mean, yeah, it was cool. Like, in 2015 when they won the World Cup, for soccer lovers like us, it was awesome. It was another great moment that they won. But this year it kind of felt different because it felt like there was a lot more people were invested in this women's program than I think in years past. And, for them to come back and win the World Cup again, that right there, just it's showing, at least it's showing to me that, that support is there, for the women's programs. And obviously that's going to continue to grow based off of, TV deals and everything like that. But I'm with you, Subes, on that there's got to be some incentive for some of these teams to come in to get a women's team, at least along, to help grow it. Because again, like you said, in 2023, it's going to be a lot more difficult for the U.S. to, repeat again, because you can just see, I think the Netherlands, this was their second World Cup, I believe is what I recall.
It was only their second appearance.
Yeah, second appearance, and they're in the World Cup final, and they pushed the U.S., in a great match. And again, England, like you said, England's good. Japan, you can always expect, disciplined soccer from them. But Argentina, I mean, yeah, they're, they haven't won much, but they had a pretty impressive showing from, a couple of matches this World Cup. And it's just, it's growing. France is not going anywhere. Obviously the Netherlands aren't. These programs, they're not going anywhere. It's continues, they have to up the ante, for the United States, to stay on top. And I think, obviously, with the growth of soccer in this country, it's going to stay like that. I think, we might not be on top forever, but, it's going to obviously show that we're going to continue to grow and at least stay very, very, very competitive.
Well, I agree. And I think I'd like to make a bold prediction that...
Oh, here we go.
Hot take. That by the next World Cup, I think our NWSL league is going to grow quite a bit. I don't want to say an exact number because this is recorded. I don't want receipts pulled on me in 4 years. But I think it's going to grow. And my final point is going to be equal pay. Pay these women what they deserve. They should not be making like 1/8 of what a men's team would make. Like players on the men's national team are guaranteed almost $2 million just to make the round of 16. And these women got I think it was $90,000 for the entire tournament. That is ridiculous. Pay these women. That is all.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Can't argue that one. So would love to hear your thoughts, though. Get in touch with us, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Congrats to the U.S. women. Congrats to Rose Lavelle. Well-deserved. And, again, I've really enjoyed talking women's soccer the last month. And, again, I want to make that an effort to continue that going forward as well. Speaking of the men.
Pass.
I mean, you just thought to yourself last night, the first 10 minutes or so in the Gold Cup final against Mexico, Josie Altidore from point-blank range has a chance to bury a goal. Christian Pulisic, one-on-one with Mehmet Ochoa, can't get it by him. Honestly, a first half where I thought the U.S. men dominated. And then Tata Martino from Mexico made a tactical change that flipped the script, and the U.S. just could not get a foothold in the match in the second half. They concede the goal to Jonathan Dos Santos. They lose 1-0 to Mexico again in the Gold Cup final in front of what felt like 95% Mexican fans at Chicago. That's a problem in itself, but I don't know if we have enough time for that. But, Bill, I guess when you watched the U.S. men against Venezuela back in June at Nippert Stadium, I guess playing in the Gold Cup final is positive, but it just feels like, wow, an opportunity wasted. And let's also not forget, this was Mexico's seaside. I mean, they were missing probably 10 starters on their team, either due to injury or just not having them in the camp. This kind of feels like an opportunity missed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we expected more, I guess, at some level when they did so well going into this tournament. I think having lost the two friendlies right before, people were wondering whether we were going to make it that far. So, it was definitely a positive. I've kind of had this, I don't know, I'm kind of giving them a pass a little bit at this point. I know people are frustrated. They feel like we missed this opportunity. We should have done better, et cetera, et cetera. When we missed the World Cup last year, right? I mean, when we didn't qualify, my vision at this point was it's time to sit down, think about what's gone wrong, think about how we're going to rebuild this program. And that's what we need to do. And honestly, I feel like the U20 World Cup was kind of the vision of the future. I think the fact that we have players out there like McKinney, like Cannon, who was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
And then of course Pulisic, who are literally like 2021, or I think they're all 20 maybe. But anyway, they're right at that point where when 2026 comes around and the World Cup is in our backyard, maybe even in Cincinnati, that's the one I want us to do well on. And these guys are going to be like 26, 27 years old. They're going to be right in their prime. Hopefully they get playing time. Hopefully they get blooded a little bit, beat up, and do what they didn't do last night, which is basically figure it out.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened. Basically, we went out with the same game plan in the second half. Tata Martino made tactical changes. He eliminated a lot of what made us very successful in the first half. I mean, stats wise, if you looked at the first half, it was fairly even. Mexico might even had a little edge on possession and shots and things. But as far as shots on goal or even maybe like true chances created, we had the best chances. We were the more dangerous team. But in the second half, we had almost nothing. I mean,
yep.
I mean, there was some period where I think it was like maybe halfway or more into the second half, and they're like, U.S. hasn't had a shot, which was crazy considering how the first half went. But they basically cut us apart. I mean, we weren't able to move the ball at all. They eliminated all the advantages we had in the first half, and we didn't adjust. The guys didn't figure it out. And for me, honestly, I feel like when you're looking at that team, you're looking at the players out there, you got a lot of young players now. Who are your leaders on that team, right? And Bradley was definitely a leader. People hate Bradley. People like Bradley. I don't care whether you like him or hate him. He is an experienced leader on that team. Josie Altidore, another very, what would you call it? Conflicting, experienced vet, but another player that a lot of people have mixed feelings about, right? Yeah. Opinions about. But again, he's an experienced vet. Those are the two guys I feel really needed to step up at that point, not for playing, but from a leading standpoint to help that team adjust to the change. And it didn't happen. And I hate to say it, but that's kind of what happened to us in the qualifiers, right? We had these experienced players that Bruce Arena brought back because that's what we needed to get it done. And they didn't make the adjustments necessary. We ended up, through a kind of a fluky situation, we ended up not qualifying, which was fairly embarrassing for the whole program. But
yeah, I mean, I look at last night's roster and those on the field. Now, I've been screaming since the team missed the World Cup last year that there shouldn't be anybody over the age of 26
I 100% agree.
On the field for the U.S. men's national team. I don't care if it's a Gold Cup. I don't care if it's a friendly. Their time has come, and it's over with, right? I mean, we saw it last night. Michael Bradley, not our best player in midfield, but then again, who are you going to put in there in his place right now? That's the problem. Probably someone like Tyler Adams is probably going to be in that position, but he couldn't play in the Gold Cup due to injury. And to be fair, Adams has played a ton of soccer over the past 12 months. Yeah. He definitely deserves a break after his move to Germany. But he struggled, right? Altidore, how do you're paid to score goals, right? You're one of the leading goal scorers in U.S. men's history, and to fluff a shot that far away from goal. I mean, that was just extremely disappointing. Now, here's where I have problems. And Chris, I know you're going to chime in here as well regarding the substitutions, right? You go down a goal, Giassi Zardes, who is not Josie Altidore, but a lot of people questioning why Zardes is even in this group to begin with, when somebody like Josh Sargent, who didn't make the – oh, don't even get me started on Josh Sargent. He brings on, needing a goal late in the match, he brings on not a striker, not a guy in Tyler Boyd who had a great Gold Cup, but he brings on a freaking left back in John Lovitz. No, I'm just kidding. It's Daniel Lovitz. I mean, I get – I don't know. Maybe Boyd was hurt, but you just got to think to yourself, okay, where was the tactical this is why we brought in Greg Berhalter, right? I mean, he's supposed to be the tactical guy. He's the one who did such great tactical things with the crew. And then to in the biggest game of the biggest tournament in his young career as U.S. men's national team coach, Chris, just gets absolutely outclassed by Tata, who, to be fair, is a world-class manager. There's a reason why he's been around so many different clubs. You're just thinking to yourself, wait a minute, what? This is what we waited a year and a half for to bring in this guy, and this is what we got?
Yeah, it's frustrating. It really, I mean, it is. I know we were.
Tell us how you feel, Chris. Come on, let it all out.
I don't want to. I'm good. I'm gonna tone it down a little bit, but
all right.
It started, with my love for Josie Altidore obviously came out when he shanked that ball wide. But it just, once you go from having a great first half of soccer, and then obviously you see Tata makes the changes, and then I'm going to bring it back to a little bit of the Bengals. It kind of feels like a typical game during the Marvin Lewis era. Yeah. It's, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. The other teams always make adjustments, and we just sit on our hands, and that's kind of what it felt like. And again, when Lovitz came in, I kind of shook my head a little bit and turned, and I was a little stunned by it. I mean, I thought I didn't hear anything about Boyd being injured, so I don't know what the deal was there, but I don't understand why he didn't come in. You can't. It's like, I don't know. I kind of felt like Greg was just he was okay with losing that match. It's kind of what it felt like when you're making subs like that. That's just how it comes across. I mean, you're not putting forth, to your fans and to your, to the team that you're coaching that, you're going to bring on a defender to, when you need a goal against your most hated rival. It just, I don't know. It definitely soured on me. I wasn't a big fan of it. And, going back to the Gold Cup, and I know I was one that was vocal about it in the Slack chat that we had, that I think when it comes to the Gold Cup doesn't mean what it used to. So to me, and I agree with you on that. Guys over 26 should not be here. Plain and simple. I think, like you said, they've had their time, and thank you so much for all you did for the program, minus not making the World Cup. But guys like I want the new blood in here, because those guys, like Bill said, they've got to be battle tested. They've got to get bloody. You're going to get that in a tournament like this. Granted, like I said, it's not. It doesn't mean what
in a tough environment like that against Mexico. I mean, that was basically playing a game at Azteca.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
minus the altitude.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But those guys, they've got to feel that, especially. Who knows? We could be in Copa America in a year or two. That's been bannered about. Those guys don't get that experience down there. But for a tournament like this, I don't care if we crashed out in the group stage, if that's what the plan was. To me, it doesn't bother me, because again, like I said, this tournament means nothing now. So get those guys some experience moving forward to where when we are in qualifiers down in Honduras and Panama, they know what to expect, and they can feel, some pressure, and okay, get out of that. That's not what we're getting here. And when you're leaning on guys like Altidore and Bradley to step up and lead the team, and they don't do it, that's where I've got a big problem with it. Especially, you couple that with the substitution pattern there. Wasn't a fan of it. Like I said, it left a sour taste in my mouth.
I don't know that Berhalter really is a tactician, though. I mean, you said something along those lines, Soups,
Yeah.
and I mean, Tata is for sure a tactician. I mean, he's known for making changes at halftime and adjusting his team. Berhalter seems like he's somebody who's really good at finding the right players to play the system he wants and teaching them that system and getting them really good at that system, so that, they're just a strong team and they can go out and play their way and dominate a game. And as long as they're playing against the right level competition, that's going to work. But as soon as you're up against somebody who can figure out what you're doing and make adjustments with his pieces, it just seems like, you're at a disadvantage there. I mean, I'm trying to think about all the games, and I have to say I didn't really, get into depth on this, but it feels like pretty much every game was a like for like sub, right? I mean, there was never like a time where he said, okay, I'm going to pull out a forward and put in a defender at this point, or I'm going to, add to the midfield and take away from, my front line or whatever. So, of course, he runs a 4-1-4-1, so it's not. It doesn't really work. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So,
yeah, I guess I was just, I don't know, a lot of head scratching, not just from Sunday night, but the federation over the last year. It took them forever to even bring in Berhalter, and then to see what we saw Sunday night against Mexico was just, I don't know, a little disappointing. I guess if you look at where this team was a month ago at Cincinnati, taking on Venezuela and then Jamaica before that, you think to yourself, well, I mean, I guess they took some steps, but I mean, there's no reason why somebody like Josh Sargent, I know Tim Weah was with the U20s this summer, but he's going to be a big focus of this group going forward. Weah on one side, Pulisic on the other. I mean, that's a lethal combination right there. Now the question is, who's going to be the 9 and who's going to be the 6 and who's going to be in the center backs? Because I don't know if Long and Miazga are the answers. To be fair, they played well, but the spine, really, the 9, all that, it's some big questions, and we're going to get those answered here the next couple of months or so. But in the end, they made it to the Gold Cup final. They lose to Mexico, and yeah.
Well, real quick, Soups, I just want to add, it just shows that the Olympic qualifying is very, very important now.
Yes.
The U23. So we've missed out on, what is it, 2 or 3 straight Olympic, that we've missed out on. So that's not a lost generation, but it almost is. That's a big group right there of U23s that have not had that experience. And that's how it's very important now that we qualify for the Olympics.
Spot on. Yeah, I forgot about that. The Olympic qualifying. That is going to be big for the U23s. So hopefully the U.S. men can get that done here. I guess that's coming up here next summer, right? 2020? Yeah. So,
yep.
So, yeah, that should be a fun one. Look, it's always disappointing to lose to your rival, but I guess you take some solace in the fact that they even made it to the final in the first place. I don't think, and many of us expected that, but it is what it is. Hopefully it's a learning experience for some of the young guys here in this tournament. As we begin to wrap things up here on CST, we went a little long this week, and rightly so. A lot to discuss. We just want to remind each and every one of you that we've got the 4th annual Cincinnati Soccer Talk Foot Golf Classic, sponsored by the Joseph Auto Group, coming up here on August 24th. We are just a little over 6 weeks or so away from that event. It's a benefit for sports games for kids. You won't want to miss it. Head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf. Get your foursome registered. It's $180 right now, but coming up on August 1st, it will bump up to $200. Spots are still available, so make sure you get your squad registered. Again, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf is where you can do just that. Also, just a reminder, we do this show live every Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. But if you can't catch the show live, you can always catch our podcast in on-demand audio formats by heading over to Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts can be found. Make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss a single episode of CST. And the reason I mention that is because we've got a big episode of March to Match Day coming up this week. We're going to be visiting with Guillermo Rivera of Chicago Now and The Athletic to get a preview of this weekend's Fire match in Chicago up at Bridgeview. So I know quite a few CST folks and a lot of fans making the trip up to Chicago, the Windy City, to see FC Cincinnati take on the Fire. So it should be a good one. As we begin to wrap things up here, I want to just give a big shout out to Chris, who made his big show debut tonight. Chris, you joined the squad, and you did well. You're welcome back anytime, buddy.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Got any final thoughts?
I do. I brought a first timer to the game on Saturday. I was a real good friend of mine he's been not harassing me a little bit about soccer, but the passion for for FC Cincinnati and the passion for the game of soccer. And I told him, I said, I just got to get you to a game. That's all I want. Just come to a match, and we'll see from there. And he was definitely thrilled to experience it. He wanted to see the Bailey march in, and I pointed out, Bill, I pointed you out, and he was impressed. He kept looking at me numerous times, like, man, he was talking about the Bailey, and he's going, man, are they like that the entire game? And I said, it doesn't stop. I mean, it is like that. And he was thoroughly impressed with the atmosphere and everything that you guys do in the Bailey. Obviously, I sit across the other side of the stadium, but he truly had a great time, and obviously it was great, that he got to experience a win. But it's just little things like that, bringing people, who just get a chance to just get them in the stadium just to experience a match, because it truly is, win or lose, it's a great time. And I was glad he came, and he certainly said he definitely would go back again. And so I just want to thank everyone out there for for that. And obviously thank you for FC Cincinnati for finally bringing us a win, first time in a long time. But yeah, it was great. I'm glad he truly enjoyed it.
Well, good stuff, and glad to have you on the show, Chris. Really appreciate all that you do for the website, and you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it.
And final thoughts from Trisha Hauser. Trisha, again, you did so well over the past few weeks covering the women's national team, and I've always enjoyed the stuff that you write here at the website. I can't thank you enough for all that you do for CST as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that as well. My final thoughts, let's see. I'm eager to see the moves that we make during the transfer window. Hopefully they make sense, but I'm sure this fandom will find something to complain about no matter what. That's what they're good at. Did I say that? Eager to play Chicago Fire. I love Schweinsteiger, though. I'm not rooting for him, but I love and respect him. And yeah, let's watch more women's soccer and have a good rest of the season.
Good stuff, Trisha. Appreciate it. And final thoughts from the Wolfman, Bill Wolf.
It has been a crazy, crazy summer. So much soccer going on. Obviously, FCC. I've been going to some of the Dutch Lions games as well, down at NKU, the World Cup, the Gold Cup,
Copa America.
I haven't really followed that, to be honest, but I mean, just soccer in the morning, soccer in the evening. It's been phenomenal. And at the same time, I have to say, I'm actually glad that it's finally over and maybe we can settle into a little bit more of a routine rhythm again. Great game on Saturday in the Bailey. Had a lot of fun out there. I am a supporter. I go 90 minutes plus. As Chris said, we do not stop. And when you are losing those games, I got to say, if I don't go home with my arms sore, I don't feel like I was truly the 12th man. I have to do my best. It was nice to feel some reward from that. So my arms didn't hurt quite as bad this match. I was able to get into the groove and enjoy it.
Well, good stuff, Bill. And as always, I really appreciate all that you do for the site and the show as well, buddy.
Yeah. Do we want a Growler Cup update real quick? Or anything?
Go for it.
Yeah. It was, obviously kind of a surprise to a lot of people that we won. No, actually, that's not true. There were 11 people who guessed that we would win this week. One of them actually got it completely right. Mitch Autry.
Wow.
Great job. He predicted 3-2 and he gets 6 points. We didn't have anybody who got like part of the score right. So 10 people got 4 points. So we'll keep it at that. And we're starting over this round. It's a new round. So Mitch is on top. Congratulations, Mitch.
Yeah, congrats, Mitch. Well done. 3-2. That's a bold prediction. I certainly didn't see a win coming. I had 3 goals, but I think it was for the other team.
Hey, I don't. You might have got 1 point. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, good stuff, Bill. Appreciate you.
Yep.
My final thoughts, again, thank you so much to everybody who's sent in email feedback, who's tweeted at us, for folks who have tuned into our live shows every Monday. And I can't thank you enough for tuning in and giving us feedback and letting us know your thoughts. We really do appreciate all that you do for us as well. And we have a blast doing these shows. So we absolutely do it for you and for fans of FC Cincinnati and soccer in general. It's been a summer of soccer, and believe it or not, the summer is not over yet because the Premier League teams have started their preseason tours and their camps, and we're just about 6 weeks away from the leagues over in Europe kicking off. So it's not that far away. But we've had an absolute blast here at CST covering it all summer long on CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. So make sure you stay up to date to all the latest news and notes surrounding any roster moves, any transfers, anything happening when it comes to FCC. We've got you covered over at CST. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. For Chris Asbrock, Trisha Hauser, and Bill Wolf, I'm Subes, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we'll see you all next week.